Welcome to Part 6 of Bright Ideas, a PTI Nebraska workshop on special education law. We began our overview of the special education process in Part 1 by noting that it all begins with a referral. This referral can come from a parent who suspects that an infant is not developing at the proper pace or has noted some other behavior that prompts scrutiny. A toddler's pediatrician or nurse may have picked up an indication of developmental delay, which could lead to a referral. The child may have been born with a congenital defect known to lead to a physical or mental disability. Or a teacher may recognize that a school-age child demonstrates signs of needing help beyond that received in a regular classroom setting. Whatever its source, the referral will trigger the next step, the initial evaluation of the child to determine if the child requires special education services, and if so, what educational services will be appropriate. Most referrals come from parents or family. The way to initiate a referral is through a request for an evaluation of your child in writing directed to your local school. You may be able to hasten a response by including with your request your explicit permission to conduct the requested evaluation. A written, dated communication makes it clear what is being requested, of whom, by whom, and for what purpose. Since special education law specifies timely responses, written communication accurately documents the responses for the record-keeping timeline. This is something to bear in mind throughout your child's educational career. When writing, keep your letter short and to the point. Identify your child and state why you think an evaluation is needed. If any outside evaluations have already been performed, include a reference to their findings. Ask for a reply to your request within a week or so of the time the school receives it. Even if you've included in your letter explicit permission for the evaluation of your child, you'll likely be asked to sign a form that the school will provide, granting your permission for an initial evaluation to be performed. We discussed parental consent to the initial evaluation in Part 5, but bear in mind that time is of the essence for your response. The earlier a child is channeled into a special education program, the sooner a positive outcome can be realized. Once consent has been granted, Nebraska's Rule 51 allows the school up to 45 calendar days to complete the initial evaluation of an infant or toddler, up to 45 school days for a preschool or school-age child. Federal regulations require that an initial evaluation be conducted within 60 calendar days of consent for any child. In any case, timely responses are mandated throughout special education law, and this serves as an example of the need to document your actions. It's important to keep copies of all related correspondence for future reference. Documentation is key. The evaluation procedure itself is very thorough. It uses a variety of assessment tools to gather relevant functional, developmental, and academic information. The specialists doing the evaluation will look at the whole child in the big picture, cognitive and behavioral factors, as well as physical and developmental factors. And especially valuable to the child's evaluation is information provided by you, the parents. No one knows the child better. The information gathered will allow these specialists to assess whether the child has a disability, determine what adaptations must be made in the child's individualized education program, and the extent to which the child can be involved in and progress into the general education curriculum. No single measure or assessment is used to make these determinations. It's the sum of all results, which includes data from the parents. All materials used for assessment and evaluation are centered around the child and are based upon what the child is able to understand. They are carefully chosen to avoid erroneous results due to a particular racial or cultural background. They're administered in the language or in a form that the child can understand. They're used in a way which is proven to be accurate and reliable. They're administered by trained staff, and in the manner intended by the producers of the materials. The child is assessed in all areas of suspected disability, and the assessment tools and strategies are chosen to provide information that directly assists in determining the child's educational needs. An evaluation as thorough as this can take a lot of time. Should a child transfer from one school district to another during the school year, in order to expedite the delivery of services, the new district may choose to rely upon an existing evaluation from the previous district until a new evaluation of its own can be performed. In such cases, the 45-day timeline for the completion of a new evaluation does not apply. Upon completion of the initial evaluation, a team, known as the MDT for Multidisciplinary Team, consisting of professionals qualified in their fields along with the parents, will meet to determine whether the child qualifies as a child with a disability, as we defined in Part 3. The definition, you'll recall, is written in very specific language in order to target children who won't fully benefit from the regular school curriculum. Special education is not intended to be remedial treatment to overcome a lack of proper instruction in reading or math or limited English proficiency, so those factors cannot be used to determine eligibility. There are other programs within the school system to bring such non-disabled children up to speed. At the multidisciplinary team meeting, you'll be given a copy of the evaluation report and documentation of the determination of eligibility. You should find that the results of the evaluation coincide with what you know of your child. If there are any differences between the evaluation report and your knowledge of your child, now is the time to bring them to the attention of the team. Because professionals have their own buzzwords that are unique to their disciplines, you'll find that the evaluation report contains a lot of jargon that may be new to you. Don't be afraid to ask the professionals involved to interpret or clarify anything that you don't completely understand. Neither should you be afraid to ask questions about the results of the evaluation. And be sure to furnish your own input, which either substantiates or calls into question some of the results. It's imperative at this meeting that everyone who will be involved with your child has the most complete and accurate picture of his or her capabilities and limitations, because this snapshot will provide the foundation upon which several years of education will be based. Never be intimidated by professionals, and never lose sight of the fact that no one knows your child better than you. The piece that makes special education special is its customization to the specific needs of an individual child, so that each child may get the most out of the school curriculum, working around and through the barriers presented to a regular education by the child's disability. No one-size-fits-all approach can do that. Every child is evaluated, and a customized curriculum called an Individualized Education Program, or IEP, is crafted just for that student. As you can imagine, keeping track of individualized programs for dozens or perhaps hundreds of students in the school district is a daunting task. So parents must be prepared to help by taking an active interest in your child's schooling, participating fully in cooperation with your child's teachers and administrators, and monitoring his or her progress continuously. You are in charge of the direction your child's education takes. Your goals and expectations form the basis of the Individualized Education Program. Along the way, you'll receive guidance from the professionals who work with and provide services to your child, but ultimately, you are in the driver's seat. That means you bear as much of the responsibility for your child's education as his or her teachers do. Your child's teachers and service providers will be documenting all of their observations of your child, collecting data about behavior, adaptation, personality traits, likes and dislikes. The same things you've no doubt observed about your child yourself, but haven't bothered to write down. Well, now is the time to begin writing it down. Special education services should be based on data, not opinion. Data from the evaluation process provides the basis for beginning, increasing, decreasing, altering, or discontinuing special education services. Evaluation data also helps determine a child's placement and the goals, objectives, and benchmarks that form the basis for instruction. Ongoing observational data allows adjustment of short-term IEP goals and objectives as the child develops. Where's the data can be one of the most useful questions you can ask when you have reservations or concerns about a recommendation made for your child's program. Any instructional recommendation or proposal should be supported by data that establishes the need. Similarly, when requesting an addition or a change of service for your child, you should be able to provide data of your own to prove its worth. The professionals have their means of collecting data about your child, and they're doing so constantly. But you can collect data of your own at home using your own observations. Always remember that nobody knows your child the way you do. For a child who has not yet reached school age, instead of having an individualized education program in place, he or she will have an individualized family service plan created in much the same way as an IEP is prepared. The difference is that the IEP for school-age children is centered directly on the child's educational requirements, whereas the IFSP for infants and toddlers is centered on the needs of the family. By supporting the family in this way, the child will have a good head start toward having the health, developmental, and environmental requirements necessary to ready the child for preschool. Entrance to early intervention services begins in the same way as entrance to the school-age special education process, with a referral followed by an evaluation, a determination of eligibility, and then the creation and implementation of an individualized family service plan. In Nebraska, the IFSP covers children with disabilities from birth or date of diagnosis of a disability through August 31st of the year in which the child turns 3. At that time, the local school district will participate in preschool transition planning to begin preparation of an IEP, although Nebraska permits an existing IFSP document to serve in place of an IEP through the school year in which the child turns 5 if all parties agree. Because it centers on the broader environment of the family, the IFSP can involve many agencies, including healthcare, social work, occupational and physical therapy, to name a few, in addition to the local school district as required, and importantly, offers coordination among these several agencies. In Nebraska, an IFSP might or might not involve the local school district, depending upon your district of residence. We want toddlers who participate in early intervention programs to experience a smooth transition into preschool programs in which the local school plays an even greater part. By the time the child is 3, if an IFSP is not already in place, the child should have an IEP in place. Depending upon the child's disability, one of the agencies which has been most involved with offering services to the child thus far will be designated the lead agency. That agency will arrange conferences with the parents, other professionals, and the school district to plan the child's progression into the more academic preschool setting. Here, too, PTI Nebraska has an entire workshop devoted to the topic of the IFSP, early intervention programs, and transitioning into the regular school setting. For more specific information regarding early childhood special education, please contact PTI Nebraska at 800-284-8520. This concludes Part 6 of Bright Ideas, an introduction to the special education process. In Part 7, we'll examine the IEP in greater detail.